on to the second game we're going to discuss, Mo. Another NFC East team, but this game is much more enticing to break down here. Eagles against the Cowboys. This line hasn't moved. It's pretty much stagnant from the preseason look ahead and last week's version of the look ahead line. And to me, this boils down to quarterback play on both sides of the ball. So you look at Dallas and also just the market overvaluing Philly. I think this is the ripe spot to bet against this Eagles defense. Philly isn't nearly as good as they were last year on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the secondary. Darius Slay and James Bradbury, both with league average or below average coverage grade at their positions. And as I mentioned, Howell was able to pick apart this Eagles secondary last week, especially Nakobe Dean. That was a factor that we didn't discuss when we briefly hit on the Eagles-Commanders game on our Monday edition of Beat the Closing Number. Dean was really exploited in coverage along with the Eagles cornerback. Safety group is definitely upgraded after getting Byard from Tennessee, but corners and at linebacker, both of those positional groups can be had in coverage. And Prescott with a top 10 adjusted EPA per dropback among qualified QBs and dropback success rate this season. So I think he's able to continue that trend of dissecting this Eagles defense. An Eagles defense that has also had the benefit of a pretty favorable schedule to begin the season, at least over the first 8 weeks. Prescott also should be getting back left tackle Tyron Smith. He missed the Rams game last week. And then Jalen Hurts, man, it's also going to notice that he's dealing with a knee injury. Only had 4 carries against Washington, and that's considerable given Dallas is the second-ranked pass rush win rate. I know Philly has a pretty stout offensive line in their own right, but Dallas can get after the quarterback, and if Hurts isn't as mobile, along with the fact that he is the 11th ranked turnover-worthy play rate, and that is actually translated into the second most interceptions this season. It's not like he's had positive turnover luck. So Dallas' secondary, even without Trayvon Diggs, they've been able to take advantage of quarterbacks that haven't necessarily been able to avoid those turnovers this season. If the knee injury is still an issue for Hurts, I think the turnovers come into play yet again. And I don't hate Dallas, maybe a small money line bet, but at 3, at the key number of 3, I really like Dallas this week.
Initially, I kind of like the Eagles when I looked at this line, actually. But the more I've been looking at it, the more it just feels like 3 is the right number. So I think I'm just off this one. But yeah, I'm with you on a lot of your points for sure. Still definitely suspicious of Jalen Hurts. Have not been that impressed with him. I mean, the big plays have been there at times for sure. At times, honestly, pretty consistently, I should say, on the big plays. But
especially last week.
Yeah, I mean, how much of that is, A.J. Brown and how much of that is Hurts? Like, it definitely looks like it's more A.J. Brown. I mean, yeah. And I don't know why this secondary isn't better. Maybe it's just normal aging at this point. I mean, like you said, Slay, Bradbury, both of those guys are getting a little longer in the tooth, I think. So maybe they're just not the elite performers they were, 2 years ago. And on the other end, you have a Dallas secondary that's honestly been balling. I've been impressed with Deron Bland, Jordan Lewis. These guys are playing very well. So it's just hard to trust Dallas because we just have watched it for years, when push comes to shove and somebody punches them in the mouth, Dak and this offense keep crumbling in every big spot they're in pretty much. So I think it's just probably a fair line, but I definitely would understand why somebody would want to bet Dallas.
We saw it on Sunday Night Football, in week 4 against San Francisco. 49ers ran all over that Dallas run D. And to be fair, Cowboys run defense has been vulnerable this year. And that will be an issue if the Eagles can generate a positive game script, which they definitely have the capability of doing on the ground, even if Hurts isn't as mobile as he was for the last year and a half with that knee injury. We'll see if that's more intuition on my part rather than what happens in terms of his performance level and ability to get outside the pocket and make plays with his legs. But Dallas has also performed better against opposing rushing attacks when you go back to the Monday Night Football game. against the Chargers and last week against the Rams. I know they also benefited from a positive game script. They got out in a hurry against LA, and plus the Stafford injury last week, speaking of quarterback injuries. But I really like Dallas, and I wouldn't also hate it if you wound up playing the Cowboys to win the division before this game. I think that's, if you're going to play, if you like Dallas futures, I think that's certainly worth a look. Plus 200 is the best price you could find. I got plus 190, plus 195 before the year began. So only a game and a half back, with the Eagles about to face a gauntlet of a schedule coming up. We discussed that last week, even on Beat the Closing Number.